Greetings. Today, let us see a powerful subject that touches the very core of justice in our society. That is, police powers and duties of investigation. We often hear about crimes and their consequences, but rarely do we stop to think about the process behind uncovering the truth. How does the truth come to light? How is justice built step by step? It all begins with a careful and committed investigation. In this session, we will walk through the vital responsibilities that police officers carry during the investigation of a crime. We will discuss their legal powers to investigate offences, how they visit and protect the scene of crime, and the steps they take to preserve and collect crucial evidence. We will understand how they sketch and how they search the crime scene with precision, what kind of materials and what kind of clues they look for and collect, and finally how they lift, pack and forward physical evidence with great care and professionalism. We will see how every small detail matters in solving a case and how their dedication and methods they help in delivering justice. Let us begin this journey of awareness and respect for the investigative work that so often goes unseen but never unimportant. When we talk about the powers and duties of police in investigation, we must understand that our democracy is based on important principles like the rule of law, due process of law, and natural justice. These principles demand that every crime must be registered quickly and should be investigated in a fair and skilled manner. It is our right as citizens to expect this. The police station, it plays a central role in this process. It is the place where crimes are officially recorded. The officers and staff, they are working there. They are given special legal powers and duties to look into crimes and bring justice to the people. According to different laws, especially the Criminal Procedure Code, CRPC, the police are allowed to register cases and investigate them properly until a legal conclusion is reached. They are allowed to investigate two types of offences: cognizable and non-cognizable offences. Cognizable offences, they are more serious in nature, and in such cases, the police can take action and start the investigation immediately on their own. On the other hand, for non-cognizable offences, which are less serious, they can only begin the investigation after getting permission from a proper authority. This system, it ensures that police power is used properly and not misused. The officer who is in charge of a police station, he has the power to investigate any cognizable offense that happens within the area of that police station. Even if the crime took place outside his usual area but was reported at his station, he can still carry out the investigation and no one can challenge that action. Other police officers who are at least of the rank of head constable, they are also allowed to carry out investigations on behalf of the station house officer, SHO. Once a case is registered and the FIR is sent, it is their duty to reach the place where the crime occurred as quickly as possible. If the officer cannot go in person, he must send one of his subordinates. Their job is to begin the investigation and take steps to discover what really happened and also to catch the criminal. This is clearly mentioned under section 157 of the CRPC. However, if the case is not serious in nature, then the officer may decide not to go personally or even send someone else. Also, if they feel that there is not enough reason to start an investigation, then they do not have to proceed. But in such cases, they must still write a proper report and maintain a case diary. And later, they should submit a final report explaining why no investigation was done. There are also times when the court steps in. If someone files a complaint in court and the magistrate believes it is a cognizable offence, then the magistrate can use section 157 of 156 of the CRPC to order the police to investigate. Similarly, if someone files a private complaint about either type of offence, the magistrate can order the police to look into the matter under section 202 of the CRPC. In both situations, the police must register the case in their police station and immediately issue an FIR before starting the investigation. The officer who receives this order, he must personally take up the case and investigate. They cannot pass on this duty to someone else. After finishing the investigation, they must prepare a detailed police report and submit it to the magistrate as per section 173 of the CRPC. Through all of these, we can see that the police have a structured and legally guided role in investigation. They are expected to act quickly, they are expected to act honestly, and they are expected to act carefully. As responsible citizens, we must be aware of these processes, not only to protect our rights, but also to ensure that justice is served fairly in our society. When we think about how investigations are carried out by the police, it is important for us to understand that their work doesn't end just because they have submitted a report to the court. Even after the final report or charge sheet is given under section 173 of 2 of the Criminal Procedure Code, they still have the right to continue the investigation. If they later come across any new evidences, whether it is a witness statement or a new document, they can take back the case file from the court and collect this additional information. They must then send it to the magistrate in the form of another report. This is often called an additional charge sheet or further report, and it is done under section 173 of 8 of the CRPC. This means the search for the truth doesn't stop. They are expected to keep working until justice is complete. As citizens, we should appreciate that investigation is not a one-time act, but a continuous effort to uncover the truth. Now, let us understand how they deal with the non-cognizable crimes. These are less serious offenses and the police cannot act on them without getting a permission from the court. If they want to investigate such cases, they must first get approval. Even after getting that approval, they cannot arrest anyone without a warrant. This system ensures that people are protected from unnecessary harassment and that police powers are exercised carefully and with oversight. One of the most critical duties they perform during an investigation is protecting the scene of the crime. We must realize how important this is because the first place where a crime happens often holds the strongest clues. It holds the strongest clues. Physical evidence found there whether it's a blood stains, weapons, pieces of clothing, or anything else. It can play a big role in solving the case. When they reach the crime scene, their immediate responsibility is to make sure nothing is disturbed, either by accident or on purpose. Even simple movement by people, it can destroy or contaminate crucial evidence. They must quickly secure the entire area so that no outsiders enters. This includes neighbors, friends, strangers, or even reporters and photographers. This is done to make sure no evidence is removed, no evidence is destroyed, or no evidence is tampered with. One of the first things they do is find and retain the person who gave them the information about the crime. If that person has to leave, then they record the contact details carefully. Anyone who might have seen the crime or has helpful information, they must be identified, separated from others and spoken to privately. They need to make sure that eyewitnesses, they remain present and they are treated respectfully. They must protect the area from dogs, cats, goats, rats and other animals, as well as from natural elements like wind, rain, sunlight, or from dust. Every piece of physical evidence, it must stay exactly where it is until it is properly recorded. If the evidence is valuable, such as jewelry, keys, or cash, they remove it only after making an official list. Even small things like cigarette butts, matchsticks, ashes, or wrappers, they could be evidence. They make sure nothing is dropped or touched that could leave fingerprints or disturb footprints. Even item is photographed, noted down, and carefully lifted from the scene after all necessary observation is complete. If the area has to be reopened for public use, like on a road or busy street, they still complete the investigation thoroughly but quickly. Sometimes evidence is not visible to the eye. Even if it is visible, it might be ignored by someone who is not trained to notice. That's why both the investigating officer and an expert team, they examine the scene closely again and again to make sure nothing is missed. In all these duties, we see how important and delicate the role of police is. Their actions every step from further investigation to protecting a crime scene. It can make the difference between justice and injustice. We must understand and we must support these efforts. And as responsible members of this society, we should always stay informed and respectful of the law and its process. When we talk about the powers and responsibilities of the police during an investigation, one of the most important tasks they perform is examining the scene where the crime happened. As soon as a crime is reported, the station house officer or SHO, he must immediately go to the scene of the offense or make arrangements for it, depending on how serious the crime is. They do this after registering the FIR. It's crucial that the investigating officer and their team, they reach the scene quickly and begin their work with full attention. They must not only observe everything carefully, but also they make sure that the crime scene is protected, all the evidence is collected, and necessary steps are taken, such as trying to arrest the accused or following them if they have fled. Every officer under the SHO, they must follow the instructions of the investigating inspector who is officially authorized to lead the case. Once they reach the scene, they must begin their search in a slow, steady and careful manner. They must not rush because any hurried or careless search, it can result in losing valuable clues. The search should be methodical and it's a specific order, checking every part of the place. Walls, floors, ceilings, windows and even small edges. Because important traces or fingerprints, they can be left anywhere. They cannot afford to ignore anything that might carry evidence. At the same time, if someone is found at the scene in a seriously wounded condition, their first duty is to help save that person's life. The officer who arrives first, he must give immediate first aid without disturbing the crime scene too much. They must also quickly arrange for medical help or send the injured person to the hospital. This step must be taken before any formal investigation begins because saving a life comes first. Even while doing this, the officer can observe and make note of the injuries and their position, which can later help in the investigation. Preserving the evidence at the crime scene, it is also a major responsibility. We may not realize it, but some evidence can disappear quickly. For example, some materials may dry up, melt, rot, or get damaged because of weather, because of heat, or because of time. That's why they must act fast and they should use proper containers like glass bottles, plastic bags, or envelopes to protect this evidence. Sometimes even chemical preservatives they are used, especially for the tissue samples or body parts. So they don't get spoiled before lab testing. For example, DNA samples. They may need a special solution to stay safe. And internal organs, this area, they may be kept in salt water. They also have a limited time to study the crime scene before it is disturbed by the environment or the other activities. So they must immediately record everything they see in as much details as possible. This record helps the investigation, helps them recreate what happened and becomes useful in court. Judges and defense lawyers expect to see clear, strong proof of how things look when the crime occurred. To support these, the police use photography, sketches, written notes, videos, and sometimes audio recording. These tools helps us to show the full picture of what happened, who was involved. Sketching the crime scene is a very useful part of this process. After taking photographs, they prepare a rough sketch. This sketch shows how far each item is from the others, their size, and where they were found. It gives a clear visual idea of how the crime took place. These sketches, they are helpful when talking to witnesses, preparing official case notes, and explaining the case in court. The sketch is based only on what the investigating officer sees with their own eyes, not what others tell them. Because if it includes witness statements, it may not be accepted in court. The law is very strict about that. This rough sketch, once made, it should not be changed. Later, they prepare a neat version of it called a smooth sketch or crime scene plan. Crime scene plan. This is usually done with proper scale and colors, which makes it easier to understand. Different colors are used to highlight different items or features in the scene. Through all these steps, we see how carefully and how professionally they must be. The police do not just arrest people. They are trying to notice they are trying to record and they are trying to protect every piece of truth that the crime scene holds. As responsible members of our society, we must understand and support their work, knowing that our safety and justice depend on their accuracy and their discipline and their dedication. When they do their job properly, we move closer to a society where truth prevails and wrongdoers are held accountable. When we think about how police officers investigate crimes, we must understand the importance of how they draw and how they record what they see at the scene. When they prepare a sketch of the crime scene, the measurements and the details they include, they must be as accurate as possible. A small mistake can create a big problem. If there is even one wrong measurement, it can make people, especially judge or lawyers, to doubt whether the entire investigation was done correctly or not. That's why we need them to follow clear standard methods when sketching the scene. Depending on what kind of case it is, they may use different sketching methods such as the coordinate method, the triangulation method, or the baseline method, or the crash projection method. These are the techniques. These are the technical but well established ways of creating a clear picture of the scene. Every investigating officer, they must have deep knowledge about the signs and symbols used in sketching and must use them properly to make the sketch useful and accurate. At the same time, while searching the scene, they are expected to take detailed notes. These notes must describe the exact layout of the scene and the exact places where important objects or articles were found. It is not enough to write something like it was found in a room or it was found on a table. It's not like that. The officer must write exactly where in that room or on which part of the table the object was located. They must also make a detailed sketch of that specific area. In important cases, photographs and video recordings must also be taken, and sometimes they even use advanced tools like laser technology to capture exact details. We must remember that investigations can go on for months and court trials can take even longer. So the investigation officer cannot depend on memory alone. That is why these notes, drawings and photos they become extremely important. Even small details, ones that may seem unimportant at first, they can turn out to be very helpful later in solving the case. That's why they must write down all observations, witness statements, physical details, and ideas at the time they occur. They also work closely with other key members like scientific experts and forensic professionals. It is a team effort because it is a team effort and they are responsible for making sure that everyone does their part with professionalism and unity. One of the most important responsibilities of the police at the scene of a crime is to search for physical evidence. Every criminal leaves behind some clue, no matter how small. This is based on a principle from 1928 by a scientist named Professor Locard. He said that whenever two objects come into contact, each leaves something behind on the other. That means whenever a criminal touches something or someone, they leave behind hair, fibers, fingerprints, or some traces of themselves, even if it is too small to see. The job of the police is to find that evidence, no matter how difficult it may be. They should find it. Sometimes they work alone, and sometimes they get help from expert teams like the clues team, which is trained to detect even the most hidden forms of evidence. But here is something. We must understand the crime scene. The crime scene is a very delicate place. It keeps changing. The environment, weather, or even the people around it, they can damage evidence. There is usually only one chance to search the scene properly. That's why police must make a careful survey of the area first. They need to understand what kind of crime happened, how it was committed, what kind of damage or what kind of loss took place, and who the victims are. Every object in the scene must be checked with care and without disturbing anything unnecessarily. Based on what they see during their first inspection, they form a basic idea or hypothesis of how the crime might have happened. This helps them start the investigation in a logical way. But they must stay open-minded. If they see new evidence that doesn't fit their original idea, they must not ignore it. Sticking to the wrong assumption just because it seemed right at first, it can lead to a big mistake. Good investigators, they always keep checking and updating their theory as new facts come in. That is how they make sure their experience and knowledge are truly useful. By the time they finish this first survey, they must have a plan. They should know which evidence must be collected first, what areas need to be searched again, and how the team should be divided to carry out the remaining work smoothly. This is a process. This is a process that requires focus, that requires discipline, that requires skill, and that requires willingness to change a course needed. As citizens, when we understand how they work and how the efforts they put in, we can better respect the system that protects us. We can also support and cooperate with them, knowing that their role is not just about power, but about precision, but about patience, and but about the pursuit of truth. When we think about how a crime scene is investigated, we often imagine police officers walking around and looking for clues. But in reality, they follow very systematic and scientific methods to search the scene. These search methods are not random. They are carefully planned and selected depending on the size, shape, and condition of the crime scene. Understanding how these methods work, it helps us appreciate the hard work and attention to detail that they put into solving crimes. One of the methods they use is called the spiral method. Spiral method. In this method, the officer starts from either the outer edge and moves inward toward a central point, like a body or a broken shape. Or they may start from the center and move outward. They move in a spiral shape, either clockwise or counterclockwise. This method is usually used when there is only one officer at the scene, and it's very effective for spotting small pieces of evidence such as fingerprints or tiny marks. One advantage of this method is that it reduces the risk of the officer accidentally stepping on or destroying any evidence. Another technique is the radial method. In this, the officer starts at the center of the crime scene and walks outward in straight lines like the spokes of a wheel. Then they move around the scene in glowing circles, repeating the process. This method helps double check the entire area and is especially good for both indoor and outdoor scene. It is even more effective when more than one officer is available. So they can cover different directions at the same time. Then there is the strip method. Here the crime scene is divided into long strips or segments, almost like dividing a football field into lanes. Each officer takes one strip and searches it thoroughly. This method works best in areas that are square or rectangular with clear boundaries. It can be used indoors like in a large hall or outdoors like in a backyard or open ground. Depending on how big the area is, they may assign one or several officers to conduct the search. There is also the grid method, which is very similar to the strip method, but a bit more detailed. In this method, the area is divided into small squares like a grid. The officer searches one side of the square and then moves at a right angle to search the other side, covering the same square in two directions. This ensures nothing is missed. It is especially useful for small areas and indoor locations where attention to tiny details is required. Finally, we have the zone method. This is used when the crime scene is too large and there are not enough officers to search the whole area at once. In this method, they divide the space into zones or smaller sections. Each officer is assigned a zone to search thoroughly. This is very helpful in places like houses, cars, or storage rooms where small objects or hidden compartments may contain clues. It allows them to focus on every corner without rushing. Each of these methods, it shows us how systematic and organized their approach must be. They don't just walk around and hope to find something. They use science, they use logic, they use discipline to look for even the tiniest pieces of evidence. As citizens, when we understand these efforts, we realize that solving crimes is not just about bravery. It is also about careful thinking, attention to detail, and working with a clear process. Our role is to support their work with trust and cooperation, knowing that they follow these methods not only to find the truth, but to make sure justice is served for all of us. Every item they collect, it can speak the truth when a human witness may not. So, it's our duty as citizens to understand and appreciate the seriousness with which they approach this task. When they arrive at a crime scene, one of the first things they look for is body fluids. This includes blood, semen, saliva, sweat, tears, and even other biological substances like urine, milk, and fecal matter. Though some of these may seem unpleasant, they are often key in connecting the criminal to the scene. For example, blood can reveal DNA. Saliva can be found on a drinking glass and sweat may be left on clothing or furniture. They also search for parts of the human body or any materials related to it. This can include flesh, this can include teeth, bones, nails, even pieces of broken bone or viscera from the autopsy room. These materials help them understand how a crime was committed and sometimes even who the victim is, especially when identity is difficult to determine. In addition to biological evidence, they must also be alert to containers and packing powder boxes, bottles, tins, cans, drums, and even old plastic bags. These could contain drugs, chemicals, poisons, or flammable liquids. Even the smallest bottle or tiniest packet, It could hold clues about what substance was used in the crime. Then documents. Documents also play a powerful role in any investigation. Papers, books, bills, receipts, files, letter pads, pens, ink, stamps, seals, and even carbon copies or photocopies. Everything they matter. A single check or awkward file, it could change the direction of any entire investigation. They collect all of this carefully because even a smudge of ink or a corner of a page, it might hold valuable information. Then explosives, they are another category. They deal with in specific types of cases. They look for what is left after an explosion, spring, wires, bits of the explosive device, chemicals used to make the bomb, and sometimes even the timer device. Whether it's in a public place or a house, collecting these remnants, it helps trace the origin and types of explosion used. They also pay attention to fibers, natural or synthetic ones that may be stuck to clothes, seats, buttons, or other surfaces. These fibers can show where someone sat, walked, or touched. Alongside these, they look for fiber prints, some visible, some hidden, and some are visible. Footprints, whether they are deep in mud or light on a floor, they can be cast and studied. In cases of arson or gun-related crimes, they collect burnt remains, ashes, gunpowder, bullets, empty shells, live cartridges, and residues from the hands of the suspected shooter. Every one of these items helps them understand what weapon was used and how. They also look at broken glass, bangles, metal pieces, human or animal hair, and even impressions, shoe prints, bit marks, blow marks, lip prints. Even the tiniest scratch on metal or the impression left by typewriter can serve as a solid evidence. Another major part of their job is collecting soil, dust, mud, and even tiny particles that cling to clothes or shoes. This may include wood fragments, seeds, leaves, or even vegetable matter. All of these can show where someone walked or what they touched or how they entered or exited a scene. They even look for tools used in the time and marks they leave, cut mark, drill mark, file mark, or any other tool mark. Everything they collect has a purpose. Every object is a possible voice that can tell the story of what happened. Their role is not just to collect these items, but to do it with the precision, care, and scientific understanding. If they miss even one clue, the entire case may fall apart. That is why their training, attention to detail, and commitment to justice is so critical. As we see their work, we must realize that crime scene investigation is not about luck or guesswork. It is about method, patience, and deep respect for truth. They put in long hours, look into the smallest details, and make sure every piece of evidence is preserved, protected, and presented properly in court. For our safety and the justice system to work properly, we must recognize the depth of this responsibility and stand with them in their efforts. When a crime happens, collecting evidence is just the beginning. What comes next is equally important. How that evidence is handled, how that evidence is packed, how that evidence is sent to the forensic laboratory. We might not see this part of the investigation with our own eyes, but we must understand how crucial it is. If the evidence is not handled properly, it can get damaged, it can get lost, or even it can become useless in court. That's why the police take great care in lifting, packing, and forwarding each item. They began this by treating every item of evidence with respect and caution. Each object is packed separately to prevent it from breaking, getting lost, or becoming mixed with other items. To handle small or delicate items like hair strands or fibers, they use tools like tweezers and forceps. They also wear rubber gloves to avoid adding their own fingerprints or contaminating the evidence. They place these items in strong, clean boxes like wooden case or cardboard carton. Some boxes have special features like pegboard sides or drilled holes to hold objects securely in place. If the police need to compare different items, say two samples of blood or two pieces of cloth, they never pack them together. They use separate containers to avoid cross contamination. Every container is dry and clean, and they avoid using big boxes or containers because moisture can destroy evidence. Documents like letters, bills, or return notes, they are packed with extra care. First, they are placed in transparent covers without holding or bending. Then, they are sandwiched between two hard cardboard pieces and placed in a proper cloth-lined envelope. This helps to keep the documents flat and safe. For small objects like bullets, cartridge cases, or fibers, they use medicine bottles, those small plastic containers we see in pharmacy. These bottles are sealed with tape and filled with the soft cotton to keep the contents from moving around. These bottles are ideal because they don't break easily and they are easy to label. But when it comes to soil or clothing soaked with blood, plastic bags are avoided. That's because plastic can trap moisture and cause bacteria to grow, which can destroy the blood sample. If there is a stain, say blood or oil, on an object like a knife or a rod, the police refer to send the whole object to the lab instead of just scraping the stain off. If the stain is on clothing, they wrap the garments in paper separately and pack them with the clear lid. They fold the cloth gently and making sure not to press down on areas that might contain valuable trace evidence. Even bed sheets, towels, or curtains, they are packed this way, folded carefully to protect the spots that might hold clothes. Sometimes it is better to send a large item like a mud-soaked shoe or a blood-stained plant to the lab just as it is, instead of removing the mud or blood and packing that separately. But when they do collect small traces like soil or hair, they pack each one in its own sealed container to avoid any mix-up during transport. In the case of files or in the case of fashion, materials like bed sheets or paints or wool, they are wrapped in metal foil and sealed tightly in containers so that the chemicals used to start the file don't evaporate. Smaller items like burnt paper or rags, they are also packed in airtight bottles or the same containers they were found in. If they come across pills or powders, they leave them in their original medicine boxes because those often have useful information written on them. They count the pills and note down the exact amount. If the poison is dangerous or acidic, they don't transport it until they are sure it's safe to do so. Glass bottles with the tight lids are they used to carry such harmful substances. Food items, they are another sensitive category. These are packed in moisture-proof bottles or containers to avoid contamination. If there is any suspicion of food poisoning, the police label the package clearly. Trace evidence like hair and fibers is placed in folded paper or clean envelopes in seal. They don't send everything from the crime scene to the lab. Only the items that matter for the case. For example, they don't send big things like beds, mattresses, or oil drums unless absolutely necessary. They tag or they mark everything properly. If an item is packed in a container, they label the box as that. If something needs a special care, like being fragile or perishable, they write that directly on the package. In urgent cases, they indicate the need for special priority and inform the lab about any earlier submissions related to the case. They make sure to get a signed receipt every time evidence changes hands. This process called maintaining the chain of custody. It ensures that the evidence is not tampered with. Everything is sealed before being sent with the labeling, with the legible labels, initials, and proper sealing. The knots in stitching ropes are also sealed, and they try to deliver the items to the lab as soon as possible. They also keep a record of everything they do, how they found the item, how they lifted it, how it was packed, and where it was sent. All of this is written in their case diaries. Whenever possible, they even take the evidence to the lab themselves and talk to the forensic experts about the case. So the scientists can study the material with the full understanding of the crime. This process might seem slow or complicated, but it is necessary to protect the truth. Every careful step they take, it helps us move one step closer to justice. We must appreciate the dedication and skill involved in this hidden side of police investigation. It reminds us that solving a crime is not magic. It is a science, it is precision, and above all, it's a commitment to justice. Then, as we come to the end of this session, let us take a moment. Let us take a moment to reflect on all that we have learned today about police purpose and duties of investigation. Together, we explored how the police began their work by using their legal powers to investigate cases. We saw how they visit the scene of crime, take steps to protect it, and ensure that every bit of evidence is preserved with care. We understood how they sketch the crime scene, search it thoroughly for physical clues, and observe with a trained eye what needs to be seen and corrected. We also learned about the detailed process of lifting, packing, and forwarding physical evidence. Each step taken with responsibility, each step taken with precision to ensure the evidence remains intact and uncorrupted. By understanding these aspects, we now realize how serious and scientific this process really is. It is not just about catching the criminal, but about following the law, respecting the truth, and maintaining fairness. Let us carry this knowledge forward and appreciate the dedication of those who serve justice quietly with discipline and determination.